right, welcome into this week's edition of the Hoist the Colors podcast, the ECU Baseball Roundtable, also known as Bucks on the Pond, as Scott Lowerbatcher, who is always on the bottom of this podcast, as is rightly his place, and not to downgrade your place.
Starting off with a bang tonight.
But there's one time he was to my right, and it was really weird. And then Wags was on the bottom. So, as always, we're live. We already got 2 comments. Kevin Ainge says first. Chuck says we are live. We are live on Facebook, YouTube. It is the final week of the regular season, gentlemen. It flies by. It's hard to believe we're here. Scott Lowerbatcher, Jonathan Wagner, alongside. We're going to be talking, of course, about the week that was. ECU sweeps Memphis. They get the road win at Old Dominion. RPI now inside the top 20. And we'll get into the hosting discussion. We'll get into the fact that Oregon State has jumped ECU in the top 25. The disrespect is back. And I guess we'll all right, let's start with the week that was. Before we get into the poll discussion, let's start for the week that was. We all predicted 4-0, right?
Yeah, we did.
And none of us jinxed it. We can no longer be held accountable for potential jinx. And we'll see what we all predict this week. But, we all said it kind of really a few weeks ago that the Pirates had to play nearly spotless baseball down the stretch run of this regular season. Now they've won 7 in a row. You would love to have that North Carolina win, but you can't win them all. But we'll see if the Pirates can keep it going. But just a really good run right now. The Pirates are on. We'll start with Scott. Just your thoughts on the 4-0 week and kind of this surge that Cliff Godwin's team has put itself on.
Yeah, hitting our stride at the right time. Got to finish the regular season strong, and then win the conference tournament and let the chips fall where they may. But it was a good week. We hit the ball well all weekend after some offensive struggles on Tuesday, but we go on the road and win a road game, get our road record back to 9-9, and then come home and actually sweep a team at home again. So that was really good. As a team that we should sweep, and we did it convincingly until the last few innings of Sunday's game. But all in all, a really good week, and now it's time to refocus and prepare for this for tomorrow night against another really good opponent at home that we really need to win.
Jonathan, what impressed you most about the 4-0 week for the Pirates?
I really think this week, for the first time in a while, was truly, I think you won because of the offense. And, well, I guess in the midweek against Old Dominion, that wasn't the case. It was really the pitching staff that kind of held things together. And, again, great start from Garrett Saylor. But, you get into the weekend, and the pitching staff pitched well. Again, like Scott said, until really the late innings of Sunday and really Saturday too. But I mean, really, you won because of the offense. It was kind of a home run derby out there at times. And it wasn't even guys in the starting lineup, but it was guys coming off the bench, guys like Riley Johnson, guys like Carter Cunningham that have been in and out, and guys like Alec Makarevich, who has been cold as of late. Really your guys stepped up and they came through, and it wasn't your top guys in the order. Jacob Starling wasn't 100% this week. So I think it was a really complete effort, I thought. And it really this week kind of made me appreciate things just, with the 3 seniors and seeing senior day on Saturday, Lane Hoover, Garrett Saylor, Carter Spivey. So it was a really cool weekend, and it was nice to kind of send them out, at least on their weekend careers, on a high note like that. So really, it was just a really impressive weekend all around. And like I said it last week, but it couldn't have come at the perfect time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the seniors because I feel like we haven't discussed that group enough. And to do what they've done, to host 4 straight regionals and to play a big role in that, and all those guys have overcome such great adversity. Like Garrett Saylor, his freshman year, couldn't even throw the ball to home plate as a pitcher. Like, it sounds crazy, but he really had the yips. Carter Spivey, we all know the story. 3 years of up and down pitching, and then finally found his groove. And then Lane Hoover, I mean, what can you say? The guy's been a staple of the program. Overcome broken collarbone, has overcome getting hit in the face by Connor Norby's knee, and just a frightening incident, and has overcome some ups and downs at times too. So it's just a awesome senior class. Great way to send them out, and of course they want to host a regional, which we'll get into if that's a possibility. But yeah, just so glad they could wrap up their careers. It was pretty emotional. You know, I wasn't crying like Cliff Godwin or any of the players, but you could just tell, like Carter Spivey pregame, it was getting him a little bit. Like when he looked down at the jersey they presented him with, he got a little emotional, and then he ended up pitching that game on the Saturday game when they did the ceremony. So just a really cool weekend. It's always cool to be there in person, see those guys go out one last time in that fashion. All right, let's get to some of the comments, and of course, we'll talk about the week to come. As always, drop your comments, questions, anything that you want to in the section. We'll get to it throughout the show. As always, the comments kind of guide where we take this thing. Starting with Chris Lehman, he says, haven't listened to the Steve Logan interview. Don't spoil it, please. Well, Chris, spoiler alert, Steve Logan says he's going to join us next Monday night for the ECU Baseball Roundtable. He did say he was a big baseball fan, so that's all I got for you. But otherwise, yeah, enjoy that. Check it out, 94.3 The Game, Facebook, YouTube, great interview. We got Mike Schwartz coming on tomorrow. And then, by the way, we might as well go ahead and make this announcement. These two gentlemen and this podcast will be making its radio debut on Friday. We are going to have the ECU Baseball Roundtable Bucks on the Pond on Friday at 12 noon on 94.3 The Game. So that'll be after the first game of the USF series because it's a Thursday through Saturday series. So we should have plenty to talk about, guys, because we'll have 2 games down. Of course, we're doing this podcast before the first game of the week. So we'll kind of have our latest projections, feelings on how things are looking after 2 games, but that'll be fun. So no pressure. We're just changing locations, and we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that'll be fun. All right, this is a good one, and obviously a very moving target. We might as well just group this in with the hosting discussion. But Will Stafford wants to know, how many more wins does it take to host? Well, Will, this is a loaded question, and I don't think there's really a true answer, but we'll start with Scott. You know, can you put your finger on a win total off the top of your head, or is it more about what ECU does in terms of winning the championship and what other teams do?
It certainly has a little bit to do with that, but if you win 8, right, you're probably going to host. Because if you win the rest of your games, you're looking at a 15-game winning streak. Going into Selection Sunday, you'll have an RPI in the top 10 more than likely, and I think that's likely a host spot. But as you know, 8 would be all of them, and that's not going to be an easy task. If you look at where we're sitting right now, say Houston wins out, we'll still finish a half game back. I don't know if that'll hurt us or not. It may factor in, but then that would mean we're playing Tulane on Tuesday in the AAC tournament, and they're likely going to start Ricky Castro on that Tuesday. So we didn't hit him last time, so we'd have to figure out a way to do that. So 8, and I think we're solid. If it's 7, including the conference tournament, maybe. And you just have to hope that some of the teams in front of us falter. Up to 19 in RPI. Like I said last week, if you go through the top 20 in RPI, find 4 teams that you don't think deserve it as much as we do. And then if you can find those 4, then likely you've gotten us into top 16. There's some talks of teams outside that top 20 in RPI that may be able to host, like Oregon State. We'll see about that. I personally don't think they're going to host with their RPI the way it is. It's only going to get worse. But if you want to for sure host, win them all.
It's a good way to put it. As I count this quickly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, ECU 19 in the RPI. I have 7 SEC teams ahead of ECU, 6 ACC teams ahead of ECU in the RPI at this time. To me, and a lot of those are projected hosts, but is the committee really going to let that many teams? And I know all those probably aren't going to host, but like the majority of those teams, are they going to let 5, 6 ACC and SEC teams all host? Is that a possibility? I don't know. I mean, that just seems like they would like to maybe spread it out a little bit, maybe not. But your thoughts there, Wags?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the SEC first, you have a whole bunch of teams there, and really, like we keep saying, like there's only 1 week left in the regular season plus conference tournaments, but I mean that's enough to completely change almost everything. So, and I'm not just talking about the last teams in, I'm talking about at the very top, you know. So it's really, you know, your Arkansas, your LSU's, your Florida's, your Vanderbilt's, South Carolina's of the world, they're all going to host. And those are, I think, in my eyes, locked in as hosts pretty much no matter what happens. But SEC wise, then you look at a team like Kentucky, who I believe is number one in RPI right now, depending on where you look. But to me, I don't think Kentucky is a host just because of how they've played in the SEC over the past couple of months. Their SEC record is 15-12, but they're just the way they're kind of stumbling to the end of the year. And to me, that looks like more of a 2 seed, and that seems to be where they fall in for the most part. But you look at a team like Tennessee. Tennessee is firmly in the 2 seed range, but if Tennessee goes 3-0 this weekend and makes a deep run in the SEC tournament, then Tennessee is probably a good bet to host. And you could say the same thing for Alabama's, Auburn's, and then you look at the ACC, and I think there's kind of a little pot of teams. And Wake Forest, Clemson, Virginia are probably sure bets to host to me again. And then you look at, you know, Duke faltered this weekend against Georgia Tech, and Miami's right there, Boston College. I think you look at those 3 teams right there, and they're right on the hosting line. North Carolina can play their way back into it. So there's just a lot of teams left, and there's a lot of teams that still could get back into it. And for whatever reason, it just feels like ECU isn't really into discussion. And I don't agree with it. If I was putting together a field based on what rankings and unbiased, ECU would probably be a late 15-16 type of host to me. And for whatever reason, it just seems like other teams are above them right now, and other teams that might not have the best numbers in comparison. So it's an uphill battle for sure. But in the end, like we said, you just have to win as many games you possibly can. You need some help, and then you need to hope that the committee likes what you've put together, because in the end, who knows what the committee is going to say.
Yeah, I mean, for ECU, the goal is simple: winning, make it hard to leave you out. I mean, if you go 2-2 this week, you're probably done. You know, you got to win a lot of baseball games, and you know, depending on who you lose to, it could really kill you in the RPI given this conference. That's just the real shame of it. And look, the SEC is by far, in a way, the best league. I'm not saying these teams don't deserve it. I mean, you can watch an SEC game, and it is a different level of baseball. But it's just like South Carolina has now lost 4 out of 5 series, and they're still third in the RPI just because every single game they play is a top 50 game. So, like, even if they get swept or lose 2 out of 3, it doesn't punish them that bad. Like, them in Kentucky, to me, like, you know, yeah, they're really high in the RPI, but both are, you know, to me, kind of wishy-washy as far as how they're playing down the stretch. They've had good and bad weekends. So you just don't know how the committee is going to look at it. So for ECU, you just got to win some games. The big series to watch, I guess, this weekend, guys, is Duke and Miami. It feels like maybe the loser of that series could, you know, falter and fall behind ECU and drop behind the Pirates. And there's also some other series to monitor, which I'm sure Scott has looked into it closely. Scott, any that you have offhand that you're really going to be looking at this weekend as far as the hosting race?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think that Duke-Miami series is going to be huge because I think one of those teams, whoever wins that series, will host. I think for sure. And really, I think it's probably better for us if Miami sweeps Duke. That would probably knock them out of the top 15, 20 range in RPI, maybe down to about 20th. Another one, Clemson-UNC, for 2 reasons. I think if UNC goes to Clemson and takes 2 out of 3, it really hurts Clemson's RPI. It really helps ours. And if UNC can play their way into a top 20 RPI, then we have a 2-game weekend series win over a top 20 RPI team. And one maybe off the radar, another top 20 RPI team, though, is Indiana State goes to our friends, the Missouri State Bears, in Springfield, Missouri this weekend. Missouri State is 3 games behind Indiana State in the Missouri Valley Conference. So a sweep would mean they would tie the regular season. Obviously, Missouri State would have the tiebreaker. And Missouri State is, I think they're 67th in RPI with a top 15 team coming in to their home field to play against. If they can get into the top 50, That helps our resume because then we have 3 more top 50 wins. So those 3 series will all be important. I'll probably dig into it a little bit more tomorrow, and maybe have a tweet or a post out with all the teams that I'm pulling for this weekend, like I did last weekend. So check that out. Should be on the message board and on Twitter. If you're not following all of us, maybe do that. Probably help you out.
Michael Hackett wants to know, where is Merritt Beaker? My sources tell me Merritt Beaker has left the team, no longer on the team. So I would not expect him to pitch the rest of the season, obviously, barring some miraculous return. We've got a few comments. JPN says we got disrespected in the polls. TJ Dunn says, can Igo get on the soapbox about the polls? Should we start recognizing collegiate baseball as the primary poll after they reinserted ECU back into the top 25?
Are we in again?
Yep, the ECU is back in the top 25.
How far are we behind Houston?
I think Houston is out. Like, I'm pretty sure that I looked at it earlier. Chip Welch, who's the director of media relations with ECU baseball, texted me earlier saying, hey, we're back in the collegiate baseball top 25, and I was stunned. I'm looking over right now. Houston is no longer in the top 25 of collegiate baseball. So they didn't even lose a series, and somehow they dropped out. So this guy is just, I mean, I don't know what he's smoking when he's putting together these things, but it's something. D1 baseball dropped ECU. We all have strong feelings about this. You go 4-0, you win 7 in a row, and you're dropping in the polls. Kind of hard to believe, no matter the competition. Yet UConn loses to Butler. Should have lost the damn series. Should have gotten swept by an 11-win Butler team. And they're still at what, 9?
Still at 9.
Like, what is that? What are we doing, man? I mean, it's a freaking joke. And Oregon State wins UCLA. Oh, they're in the Pac-12. UCLA isn't even good this year.
UCLA has a ton of injuries. I mean, they're a shell of the team they were at the beginning of the year. And Clemson jumps to 6, and Clemson got swept by UCF. Now, granted, they were still juicing their bats at the time, but they still got swept at home by a team that we swept. So, I don't get that. And I see somebody talking about UConn in the chat, but UConn plays another bad RPI series this weekend, so they'll drop out of the. I think they've already fallen out of the top 25 in RPI, so they're just going to keep falling because the league's not good. So, and West by God, Virginia, in the Big 12 baseball powerhouse, West Virginia, they do maybe have the best player in the country, but they're up to 7th now. So, I just got to protect the brands.
If you're winning the Big 12 or the Pac-12, you get automatic credence just because it's a power league, you know. It just bothers me that is bled into baseball. You know, let's send Oregon State to ECU and let's see how they do. Hell, send ECU to Oregon State and let's see how that goes.
Anywhere, anytime.
Beavers would probably win. But anyways.
The weather would be terrible.
Yeah. In Oregon, I would take the Beavers, to be fair. All right. A couple of comments about, can we comment about Tulane blowing the game? Jack Dover says, yeah. Goodness gracious, man. The Fighting Corey Glores, man, what are they doing out there? They have one pitcher. Like, Ricky Sanchez is it. And I was watching the Saturday game, and they got a pretty substantial lead, and they were bringing in their best bullpen guys. And these dudes suck, man. And we saw it in Greenville. Like, give Tulane credit. They came in and played well. Castro pitched well. But outside of that, like, they can't throw strikes. They're dropping the ball. Their catcher is an embarrassment. I mean, this guy was getting multiple catcher interferences. He was trying to frame the ball, and he kept dropping it. Like, what the hell is going on in New Orleans, guys?
I mean this in the nicest way possible, but Tulane does not have talent on their roster. They're an awful baseball team, and it's not even just Tulane choking it, but it was the umpires too, because there was a pitch clock violation on Tulane while they were on the mound that had a major impact in the game. And then I believe in the same game, Tulane was at the plate and there was a strike 3 called on a Tulane batter to get out of a jam. So it was just all around just so frustrating, which again is just so fitting for a Tulane baseball team.
Yeah, just disappointing. And I know, Scott, you predicted a Tulane series win. How early did you regret that?
Well, the Saturday game they had them and blew it, right? And then even on Sunday, I was like, if they win a game, that's essentially a series win in my book at this point. And they get up 4-0, and then they blow that, and then they cut it to 12-11, and then they give up 6 in the top of the ninth. And I don't think I've ever seen a catcher with a worse ejecto mid than the Tulane catcher. I mean, the ball just wouldn't stay in there. So I guess Tulane sold their soul to win the American Football Championship and a New Year's Eve Six Bowl, and now they have to suffer through a 14-win baseball season because that is legitimately one of the worst baseball teams I think I've seen in a long time. However, they do have a win over the Pac-12's newest top 25 member, Washington. So, and they won at Washington. So, Pac-12 Power Conference.
Did Ricky Castro start?
I think it was on like a Tuesday.
Oh,
so
okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Ricky Castro. Yeah, like you said, Tulane sucks, but I don't want to see them in the tournament for that reason. And it's a possibility if ECU can't get off the 2 line. Although USF Tulane tied for last going into this weekend. Chuck says, I don't believe the hype we have to win out to host regional. I think if we beat Campbell, take 2 out of 3 against USF, and win 1 game in the AAC tournament we host. I don't think 1 game in the AAC tournament is going to do it, Chuck. I think your scenario, if you win 3 out of 4, and then definitely if you win the conference tournament. See, to me, if you win the conference tournament, let's say there's a scenario where you finish a half game out of the first place. The only way to make up for not winning a really bad league is A, be playing your best ball at the end of the year, which ECU will be, and then go win the conference tournament to make up for it. So I think that's the only way. If you don't have the regular season title or the conference tournament title, I don't think ECU's hosting no matter what their RPI is. Do y'all disagree?
No, I think you're right. I think there's no differentiators there for us this year the way there's been in the past. We're not in the top 10. We don't have the top 50 wins. We don't have the road wins. We don't have the RPI. So without those things, I think we really do have to win, 7-8 games the rest of the way.
Wyatt Gable says, does the conference tournament count towards the national rankings? Yes, they do. They count towards the RPI hosting all of it. Chuck says, if we do host, what are we looking at, 13 or 14 seed? I think right now, anywhere from 13 to 16, barring some sort of, if you win every game, if you win 8 in a row and you have some teams collapse, maybe you can get a little higher. But, I think you're ceiling maybe 12, 13 if everything goes right. I don't know. I mean, y'all think a national seed is out at this point, right?
I would think so, but I mean, then again, look at last year. We said it in past weeks. Look at last year. I mean, at this time of the year, we figured, okay, we're in the tournament now, which is good. But a couple weeks ago, we weren't. Like, we were completely out of the picture. And by the picture, I mean, we weren't making a tournament, let alone hosting. And we were top 8. So I don't know. And I think, to me, there is a path to hosting. And we've said it again. You have to be perfect probably. But I do think if you beat Campbell, then I think you can probably afford more to go 2-3 over the weekend over South Florida. You'd still like to go undefeated there and go 4-0 this week. But again, I think if you win the conference tournament, even if you go 2-3 and you finish a half game back at Houston in the regular season, if you win the conference tournament, you're going to be in the discussion. Again, it just matters on what the other teams do. And if you're putting ECU up against, and they're going to say this doesn't matter, but the teams like the Oregon States, team like the Boston Colleges, again, ECU, especially like a team like Boston College, a team like Duke, ECU has that national respect. ECU is a power brand, and I could see them getting the nod. We've seen what this place can do for a regional, and if the resumes are close and that's what's differentiating, then I think it's definitely something that could play into it.
Josh Hill says, win the regular season and tourney and win out, we host. Only win out and win the tourney, we might host. Win neither, we are a 2 seed. Yeah. Only win out and win the tourney?
That's if Houston also wins
Okay.
all 3 of their games this weekend.
Gotcha.
So we don't get the regular season title.
Gotcha. Makes sense. I was struggling there. All right. Let's go back to the comments. Where were we? We got a lot. Appreciate the interaction tonight. It's that time of year, guys, where the RPI discussion, the hosting discussion, it's all a bunch of fun. Let's see. All right. Here's a good one because we had the coldest take imaginable on the Hoisted Colors message board, and this goes in line with that. I think we saw why Dixon Williams hasn't seen more playing time this weekend. And then somebody on Hoisted Colors, and this guy can't be serious, but essentially said we need to move on from Dixon Williams after what he saw this weekend. Bro, it was one game, man. And he's had 12 plate appearances, 12 at-bats all year. He was also called out on 2 ball threes or 2 balls. Both of them were not strikes. One of them was way off the plate. One of them was low and inside. So, look, Dixon didn't have a great day. He'll be the first to tell you that. He's also barely played. He was facing a left-handed starter. So, look, come on, guys. What are we doing? Yeah, go ahead.
And Dixon probably, let's be real, he probably wasn't even expecting to be in the lineup that day. That was probably a last-minute thing with Jacob Starling's back. And, that was probably a last-minute thing. Starling probably warmed up and said he couldn't go. And then Dixon, all right, you're in, buddy. And, again, when you only get, 20 at-bats a year, you're going to need some time to get used to seeing live pitching that's not the same guys you've been facing in practice. So fair to Dixon at all. And let's not forget, what was it, last weekend, 2 weekends ago, when Dixon Williams got 2 plate appearances at home, and where did those 2 balls go? They went all the way to the warning track. They were probably the best hit balls all day. So if you're going to look at one game, then look back 2 weeks ago and look at those 2. And it's just not fair to kind of nitpick there on one game on a true freshman in his first real at-bats against a lefty pitcher, like Igo said. That's ridiculous.
JPN says he played Tuesday and Sunday. Yeah, Tuesday he had 2 at-bats. I can't remember what he did on the first at-bat, maybe ground out. But his second at-bat, he had a good at-bat, fouled off several pitches, and lined out to center field. So, he had, at least one good at-bat and 2 plate appearances. Then Starling came into the game. So, look, I think Dixon Williams is going to be a stud. I mean, he has got tremendous raw power. They've worked on some things with him this year. He's going to be good. And we need to chill out with that talk. The guy's a local product. He probably is putting some pressure on himself too because we talked about him a lot. So he'll be fine. Whether it's this year or next year, of course, we want Starling to be okay. And by the way, we've had several questions on Starling. I don't know how many back injuries there have been this year, but it seems like a lot. He's just kind of dealing with an ongoing back deal, and it'll be something that is day-to-day, having to be managed. I think he could have played Sunday if needed, but no need to push it. He didn't look comfortable Saturday, so hopefully getting today off helps, and we'll see if he's in the lineup tomorrow. But it's just a day-to-day situation with Jacob Starling, which is a shame because he was starting to really swing the bat really well.
And I will say on Starling real quick, and Cliff did say earlier today on Pirate Radio he's day-to-day. He probably won't play tomorrow. But I do think Starling – I noticed this on Saturday, and it was after they did the senior day ceremonies as guys are kind of hanging around in front of the dugout. And I noticed there's someone pretty much laying flat on the turf in front of the dugout, stretching out their back and really intense stretching right before the game. And obviously got up, and that was Starling. So I think it – like we said, didn't look comfortable Saturday, I don't think. So I think it's definitely playing a factor, but day-to-day, and I think you have a couple guys that can step in. So it's same thing we said with Trey Savage, other guys all year. Give him the time he needs because he'll be more valuable to you in a couple weeks in the postseason at full health rather than trying to rush him back.
Jack Dover says, does anybody play second base in a pinch outside of Dixon Williams if Starling's out? He mentions Cam Murphy. That is a possibility. We also saw Nate Crispin play there late. And, Barini obviously could slide over there if they want to put Crispin at short. He's played there in the past. AMAC has played some second, so, you can do some of that. But those are kind of your options. I thought Chrisman's hit the ball well lately, not a ton to show for it, but he seems to be making some progress with the bat. All right, let's get back into these questions. And Dave Englert says, do we need to beat Campbell more because they are ranked ahead of us, or just to get our first win of the season over them and UNCW, against whom we are 0-4 combined? Scott, what's the most important aspect of a ECU, potential win over Campbell? Why do they need this game?
It's a top 50 RPI win. That's a metric that is often used by the committee, is what you do against the field, what you've done against top 50 RPI teams. It doesn't really matter where they're from and whether or not they want to beat us or more inspired to beat us than maybe somebody else would be. And it keeps the win streak alive. Right now, last year we wrote I forget how many games it was, win streak into the national tournament. I think it was 20 games or 21 games. If we can get to 15 this year, that's a notch in our cap that a lot of other teams aren't going to have. So, top 50 RPI win, keep the win streak going more than anything.
And ECU right now 4-5 top 50, right? So, to me, getting back to 500 at least. We talked about Missouri State. Maybe they can. Man, it would be big if they could get top 50 because that just makes your record look so much better. 3 wins, obviously, but you can't count on that. So you want Campbell. You want this win. It's probably your last top 50 win period on the table. So if you're 500 there and you're above 500 on the road, I think that makes your resume look much, much better. So, yeah, big game tomorrow night. Josh Hill says, can Chase Soule play on the baseball team as well? He's the new receiver commitment. He can play on the baseball team. When I talked to Chase, he said right now his focus is on football. That's what he's focused on. He was a big-time recruit out of Texas, ended up focused on just football, going to Colorado. And the thing is, when you're a football player, your scholarship always counts towards the 85 football limit. So he could play on the baseball team, not count against ECU's scholarship limit, but I think he would count against the 35-man roster limit. So there is that factor. But right now, no plans of that, but we'll see after he gets here what happens. But ECU's baseball roster pretty full. Christian says, are y'all going to be at the game tomorrow? Are we going to be at the game tomorrow?
I will not be.
I will be here watching my baby.
And then I will be at the game, Christian. So I'll be representing. Disappointed you guys.
We got one real Pirate.
Got to work 12 to 8, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's tough. Christian, are you going to be at the game tomorrow?
That's
the real question.
Yeah, that's
the real question. If you're listening and you're going to be at the game, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching on Facebook, share the stream on Facebook.
I don't know if y'all have been noticing, but our likes on YouTube have been going way up because because Scott's been breaking into y'all's houses and hitting the likes. I'm not gonna lie, our views on YouTube for our post game videos and for this podcast has been going way up. So whatever you're doing, Scott, is working.
Mm-hmm. I just keep creating fake accounts and just have it playing all over.
He's got it live streaming on 40 different computers right now around him. Josh Hill says, unless we get left out because there are 14 teams in the Southeast hosting. Yeah, there's a lot of teams in this area hosting. We can get into that discussion. I feel like we talked about that a lot. So we'll move on right now. Which team would we want to play first in the conference tournament? Dave Englert wants to know, Houston or Wichita State. I assume he's saying later in the tournament because there's no way they're going to be a first-round opponent. So I guess he's saying, would we rather be on the side of the bracket as Wichita or Houston? I don't know. I'm kind of scared of Wichita after what happened in Wichita. I don't want to see Peyton Tolley again. And Houston, I thought, was extremely fluky how they beat ECU. I would love for ECU to get some revenge on Houston. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I don't care what the standings say, but I think Wichita State is a far better team than Houston is. And to me, it's not really close. Houston is just, again, it was a fluky series, like Igo said, and there were 3 games that ECU probably should have won, but they didn't, and that's okay. And Wichita was Wichita, and I don't want anything to do with them. Nothing to do with Wichita. I don't want to go through it again. Houston was just as frustrating, but again, I think Wichita State is a better team. I think they're better offensively, better pitching. So if I'd rather be on the side of the bracket with Houston.
Scott, do you have any preference on just the tournament in general? Like, would you like to see ECU avoid, obviously, Tulane, like we talked about? If ECU gets the 1 seed, they're probably going to face USF again because they'll have swept USF. I don't know if USF has an ace. I honestly haven't done any USF research at this point.
Yeah. Honestly, I would say best case scenario is we play both Houston and Wichita State because they're the 2 best RPI teams in the league. And, that's a metric we need. And we need to beat those teams. So round 1, play USF because we swept them and maybe Houston dropped a game. Then round 2, we would be in the 4-5 game, which I think if UCF or Cincinnati can win enough, they can pass Wichita, and Wichita could potentially be in the 4-5 slot. And then in the championship game, maybe facing up either against Houston or Wichita again. So really we just want to play the best RPI teams in our league. I don't think that when we're playing our best, there's anyone that is going to be better than us on the field. And so if that's the case, then you need to just go out there and prove you're better and win these games. Get your RPI, to 6 or 7 maybe. So, yeah, I think I want to play them all. So let's do that.
Let's line it up and play every team in the American one more time.
1 through 8 or 9 or however many there are.
Not enough, sadly. Not enough good RPI teams, that's for damn sure. Adam McMunn says, is Campbell large enough to host? I guess he's talking about the facility. Josh says they're pretty much done. Campbell's too far down the RPI. What are they, 23 right now?
They are, I have it right here, currently ranked 22nd. They have 4 road games left.
They got a tough schedule this week. USC Upstate's good.
They come to Greenville against RPI 19 East Carolina, and then they go to Spartanburg against RPI 97 South Carolina Upstate. They won all 4 of those games. Yeah. They're right back in the conversation for sure.
Yeah, if they go 4-0, man, they'll be top 16 RPI probably.
Yeah,
at least. So I wouldn't say they're done yet. If ECU beats them, that definitely I think helps ECU because ECU will jump up. Like all those teams, I haven't looked at it today, but as of yesterday, like 16 through 22, there was not a ton of separation in terms of the RPI points. So like a win tomorrow could mean you're top 16 if you're ECU. A loss could drop you to the low to mid 20s. So it's a big game for obvious reasons. I don't know if you have those numbers in front of you, Scott.
Yeah, we're 40 points ahead of Campbell right now. And Miami is 1 point ahead of us. West Virginia is 9 points ahead of us. And then when you get to 16 at Stanford, they're 39 ahead of us. So there's a bit of separation between 16 and 17. And then beneath us, we're 13 points ahead of Auburn, 30 points ahead of Oklahoma State. That's one win or loss against a high RPI team or a loss to a low RPI team that could swing that in your favor. I think Memphis was a negative 60 every game we played if we would have lost one of those. So, and it was a +5 for wins. So keep that in mind.
I was surprised it was plus anything with how bad they were. Maybe their RPI wasn't as bad as I originally thought.
It went up 18 spots this week.
It's amazing, right? I mean, they played just by playing ECU, their RPI went up 18 spots.
They played 3 games. They lost them all. Their RPI went up 18. So
makes zero sense. Dave has a personnel question. He says, do the recent outings by Tyler Brott have him back in our relieving rotation? Yeah, he looked good in the Friday game, right? But it was the Sunday game. He got hit around pretty good. Or was it Saturday?
Sunday, yeah.
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the fastball is coming. The secondary stuff is just not not great right now. I really want to see him develop, and I don't even know if he's got another year left, but I would love to see him develop like a hard slider. He's got the curve and the fastball right now, and I just don't feel like they play off each other very well. Whereas if he had like a hard slider from the same plane, maybe it would be more swing and miss. Because the fastball gets on you, but if you know it's coming and you can differentiate it pretty easily, which I think teams can, it's pretty hittable. So, look, I want him to succeed. I think Tyler Brott would add a lot to the bullpen if they could figure out a way to get him more consistent. But I just don't know in close games right now if you can trust it. So I do like they've kept going to him to give him chances, but it's just been inconsistent. So I don't know, guys. The bullpen right now, like I feel really good about Danny Bill. I feel really good. If Saylor isn't starting, I feel really good. I think like come postseason, he'll probably be out of the pen for like a regional. I feel really good about Landon Ginn. I feel good about Jake Hunter. I feel good about Wyatt Lunsford Shinkman, obviously. Who am I leaving out? That's 5. Spivey, definitely that's 6. 6 guys you feel really good about. And then, of course, you got Trey Savage as your starter. You got Josh Groves as your starter. You got Zach Root as a potential starter. So that's 9 guys I feel good about. And then you got guys like Eric Ritchie, Tyler Brott, Jaden Winter, who can go in and throw at spots. So I feel like the depth is pretty good. I mean, it doesn't sound like a ton, but maybe we should all realize that's a lot more than a lot of college baseball teams have. Just y'all's thoughts on the bullpen as we come down the stretch here. We'll start with Wags.
I think I was glad to see Tyler Brott kind of get worked in a little bit again. Really, just because I think with him, and you look at the schedule coming up. You play Tuesday, Campbell. That's an all hands on deck type of game, just because it's so important. And then you play Thursday, Friday, Saturday against South Florida. So the Tuesday to Thursday short turnaround. If you're forced to go to someone like Carter Spivey, say more than you might want to tomorrow on Tuesday, and he has to pitch out of the bullpen for an extended outing, then he might not be available on Thursday. He might not be available on Friday. So the bullpen's going to get thin, stretch really thin. And then once you get to a conference tournament setting, that's where I think, even if you don't necessarily trust Tyler Brott's going to pitch at some point. He's going to find his way into the game. And so I'm glad that he got worked in, but I agree. And I do think he has 1 year left. But I agree. I think having a power slider to go off of that hard fastball would make him that much harder to hit. And I see Willie Lumpkin there in the comments too. I do like Willie Lumpkin. It just feels like every time I say good things about Willie Lumpkin, he gives up a 2-run bomb to the same spot in left center field. And it's just a no-doubter, and it's crushed. But I do think Willie Lumpkin too, he's got good stuff. He's got a good fast. He's got a lot of movement, and I love pitchers like that. And I do think that Willie Lumpkin is going to play a big role once you get into the conference tournament, like I said. I'm just not sure how some of those guys, like the Tyler Brotts, how the Willie Lumpkins, will. I don't think those guys are going to be trusted once you get into a postseason regional type setting when your season's on the line.
Scott, the thing I like about this group of guys, like the 9 guys we kind of listed, like all of them can go extended innings. Like we've seen Shinkman go like 4 or 5. I mean, obviously that isn't ideal, but we've seen Spivey. I mean, he's got starter experience. Saylor, Root. Like once you get into a regional, you can lean on those guys if needed for 3 to 5 innings. And I think that's pretty big.
For sure, they can carry you to and through the end of a game. I think you'll see Saylor go longer on Tuesday this week than maybe we did last week. He didn't pitch at all this weekend, so maybe that's setting him up to start as a true. I want you to go out there and get 6 or 7. I know Cliff probably wouldn't tell him that, but go get 6 or 7 innings on Tuesday and pitch well, and then turn around next Tuesday when the conference tournament starts and do the same thing. But yeah, you look at this bullpen, I think there's definitely that top tier of the guys we mentioned, but that doesn't mean that second tier isn't important. You look at Friday's game, we had a big lead, and then you rely on guys like Ritchie and Brott and Lumpkin to get you to the end of that game, and you don't have to burn a Danny Bill in a game where you're up 4 or 5 because all of a sudden now it's you're up 4 with 2 on, and you need a guy to come in that's one of your main guys. So, yeah, everybody in this bullpen is important, but I definitely think there's certain guys that can come in and just finish the game no matter what inning they come in, and that is something a lot of teams definitely do not have.
Somebody asked about Trey Savage's pitch count. What is it now, 50 to 60 pitches? Well, he threw 60 this past weekend, and that may have been a little high after throwing 33 at Cincinnati. But, for the most part, right on track. And I think he'll be more near 70, 75 this week, and then conference tournament probably closer to 90, and then postseason you cut him loose is kind of the plan. Hopefully he stays healthy. Stuff looked good, 94, 95. Breaking stuff looked as sharp as it's been in a while. So really encouraged about what we saw from Savage, and I think they've kind of approached his return the right way because, I'll be interested to see what they do Thursday. It sounds like they're not going to move Josh Groves or Savage up a day. So that almost might be like another midweek game as far as a pitching plan. And we can kind of get into this discussion, but we know South Florida is going to be prepping for the AAC tournament. So it's likely almost going to be a midweek game for them too, because they're going to try and line up their rotation. They'll probably throw their weekend guys, but on limited action. They have to win the tournament or else it doesn't matter. So how would y'all maybe try and approach Thursday, like another midweek game?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way you have to. And I think not moving Josh Groves and Trey Savage up a day is the right move. And because we've already seen Trey Savage on 100%, and we don't want to risk him going on short rest while you're also trying to stretch him back out. That's not a combination you want to mess with. And I think Josh Groves too, we've kind of seen him slow down a little bit as the season gone on. I think he's pitched better in the beginning of his first few outings, but I still think he gets tired as the game gets into the middle innings. So moving him up and risking that with him as well, I just don't think it's something you can do. So to me, I think I would go – it depends on what you do on Tuesday because, like I said, I think it's all hands on deck on Tuesday against Campbell. But if you can start Garrett Saylor on Tuesday, which he will, and then someone like Danny Beal or Jake Hunter, if one of those two doesn't pitch on Tuesday, then they will probably go on Thursday. And Zach Root could go too, because he didn't throw a whole lot. I think he threw 50 pitches on Sunday, so he could theoretically come back on Thursday as well. So I think Zach Root could be a good option too, but we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be tough battling South Florida, not really focusing on the weekend the same way we are.
Michael Hackett says, any insight on the Campbell pitcher that is starting tomorrow? I don't believe we have seen him in our prior games. It looks like he may have started the year in the pen. So I pulled up his numbers. I honestly don't have a scouting report, but here's the deal. He's a lefty. Big surprise. Jake Murray, and he is a transfer from Wake Tech. Looks like he started the year in the bullpen, didn't pitch a whole lot, maybe injury-related. Basically didn't pitch from late March until late April, but then has been a midweek starter for the most part recently, and has pitched pretty well. In his last 3 outings has gone 15 2/3. He's gone at least 5 innings in each start. Against High Point, he went 5 innings without allowing a hit, striking out 8 on April 23rd. Then he turned around and started against Elon, went 5 2/3, struck out 9, allowed just 1 run. And then UNCW last week, 5 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. So he's gone pretty deep into games. Lefty starter. We'll see what ECU can do. Been seeing a lot of lefties lately, so won't be anything new there. All right, let's get to a few more questions before we wrap up tonight. The way he drew it up, a.k.a. Buck Wild. I'm just giving you a hard time. I know you're not him. Maybe. I think this is our best lineup. Thoughts? Lane Hoover, center field, leading off. Jacob Starlin, second base. Batting second. Alec Makaravich, batting third, playing third. Jacob Jenkins-Cowart, DH, and batting fourth. Josh Moylan. Josh Joylan. That's a great name.
That's a good baseball name.
Josh Joyland batting 5th, playing first. Luke Nowak batting 6th, playing left. Justin Wilcoxon batting 7th, catching. Joey Barini batting 8th, playing shortstop. Carter Cunningham batting 9th, playing right field. I feel pretty good about that lineup. I would probably move Amac down and Wilcoxon up. But when Amac is hot, you ride him. Right now it looks like he's hot. But Scott, your thoughts on this lineup?
Yeah, I like JC in the 2-hole. I like Starling actually in the 3-hole a little bit more than the 2-hole. Moreland bat 4th, then maybe Wilcoxon 5th. Actually, I think I would flip those guys. I think I'd have Wilcoxon 4th with Moreland behind him, so maybe Wilcoxon can see more fastballs. I think I'd definitely have Amac batting 9th. I think that's where he's been his most productive this year. But other than that, maybe have Nowak JC playing right field, Cunningham in left field, and Nowak playing DH, preferably. Because, yeah.
Carter Cunningham guys playing well. Do y'all think it was the walk-up music?
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the angst towards the walk-up music. I think that's what really he was like, you know what? I'm going to show these guys that my walk-up song works for me. And all the naysayers out there that hate his walk-up song,
it's trash.
Prove them wrong.
Oh, I mean, all you have to do is look around the stadium when it comes on and nobody's reacting to it. And if they are, it's like the 3 people that are going like this. Like, come on now.
Well, Todd Frazier used a Frank Sinatra song for like 6 seasons in Cincinnati, and he had a ton of bombs. So maybe it's just, whatever works for you.
Hey, if it works, I'm all for it. And I honestly don't really care, but I just...
Bring A.J. Wilson back. Pump it up.
It's time. Pump it up.
A.J. Wilson can stay in Charlotte with his 1/3 of an inning, hit batter, strike out, no decisions.
Pumped it up.
Pumping it up.
And I do want to touch on that lineup real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to say that the lineup that we put out, I think on Saturday, I think is my favorite lineup we put out so far, with Hoover leading off, Starling 2, Wilcoxon 3, Moylan 4, JJC 5. That top 5 right there is beautiful in my eyes. And I think I look at this one and I see Amac in a 3-hole. And personally, I prefer Wilcoxon, but I do think, like, in a lot of ways, it's kind of similar. I think Amac's floor is probably lower than Wilcoxon's, but they both, I think, have a lot of swing and miss in their game when they're not on. But when they are on, they're both very, very powerful bats, and they can come through with some big hits. And Cunningham in the 9-hole, if Cunningham keeps hitting how he has the past 2 weekends, then that's a pretty good 9-hole guy. I like Nowak. Nowak, honestly, I like him 6, 7, either one of those spots. But and Scott mentioned, preferring JJC in right field. I'm actually the opposite right now. And I want to start off and say I still don't trust Luke Nowak's defense in left field. I just still don't. But I do think that Cliff Godwin likes to use defensive replacements late in the game. And I would rather that be for Luke Nowak's bat than Jacob Jenkins-Cowart. And so JJC at DH, his bat's safe. But Luke Nowak, you could put Riley Johnson in center, slide Hoover over to the left. So that would be the only disagreement I have there, just because, I mean, I like Riley Johnson too, but I'd much rather him be in the game for Luke Nowak than Jacob Jenkins-Cowart.
The way he drew it up says his logic on Amac is he's our X factor. He's too good defensively with no backup. If he hit in the 3 spot, he wouldn't get as much junk thrown to him because he would have JJC protecting him. He says, I think Amac would play over his head in the 3-hole. It would get rid of the holes in our lineup from being too top-heavy. I mean, it's a fair point. But I feel like he's hit in the middle of the lineup in the past with mixed results. So,
just spent a little bit of time in the 5 spot.
Yeah.
But right now he has Hoover, Starling, JC all behind him. So, because he's in the 9-hole and he's still getting attacked and, striking out sometimes. But had a great weekend this weekend.
The way he drew it up also says, did y'all see how fast Cunningham got to that ball that should have been a double and held him to a single? Yeah, I think Carter's played a solid right field this year. I think he's really good going back on the ball, as opposed to coming in maybe and then cutting the ball off. I think he's done a good job. JJC, according to Johnny Robertson, had 8 home runs and 120 pre-injury at-bats. Since returning, he has 1 home run and 53 at-bats. Any thoughts? I don't know if the ruptured testicle sapped his power or what, but, he's hit the ball. He's hit the ball hard. He's hit more line drives recently with nothing to show for it. He's not really elevating the ball. I honestly think if he continues to swing the bat like he is, he'll start running through some home runs. He gets kind of streaky as far as the long ball, like a lot of power hitters do, and I just think maybe we need another return down to Florida. It was last year's tournament, right? He was crushing the ball. Him and Bryson Worrell were just unreal. So I think if he continues on this path, he'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, you got to still be getting over the mental aspect of having your testicle ruptured, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and I think he took the ball the other way a little bit more this past weekend.
he did.
Oh, yeah.
And if you start doing that, they'll stop throwing you away. And if he can get some more balls in, then you'll start seeing the home runs come too.
Yeah, he took some massive rips that he came up empty on. I thought he was going to rupture his other testicle for a minute. Like, I was like, dang, dude, calm down. No, glad to see him back. He'll be fine, man. I think he's been swinging the bat well, even better than it. Like, him and Moylan have been hitting some rockets right at dudes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been kind of unfortunate.
And I think honestly, JJC at this point might be just more of a doubles power type of guy. Last year, I think he got hot and he was hitting homers, but look at this year, the 8 home runs pre-injury, 3 of those came in 1 week. 1 game. 3 of those came in one game. So, you take those out, that's 5 pre-injury. But still, I think he's definitely has the power, but I do think at this point he's probably more of a doubles type of power guy, and that's fine because he did kill the ball this weekend.
All right, let's get into the week ahead because we got to talk about the conference championship race. We've had several comments on, hey, can we rely on Cincinnati to win a game? Can we loan Cincinnati anybody? Somebody said Merritt Baker's already on his way. And Cincinnati can't pitch. They can't pitch. It's painful to watch. It's honestly going to be a lot like watching Tulane, except maybe not quite as bad, but still pretty bad. Like, you look at your pitching numbers and it's disgusting. But they can hit probably even better than Tulane to an extent. So can they win a game? Yes, they can win a game. But, I got to give Houston credit, guys. Houston's playing at a pretty high level right now. It's a shame they started the year so bad. They've kind of found something in this Murray kid who's been a two-way star. He's really been a shutdown reliever. He's also hitting the ball well. He's probably looking at the Conference Player of the Year if they win the Conference Championship. They don't have a great starting rotation. They hit the ball pretty well. Cincinnati's just going to have to out-hit them and find a way to string together maybe 2 to 3 good pitching performances. They've got guys with decent stuff, better stuff than Tulane. It's just, I don't know. What is y'all's belief in Cincinnati taking a game at Houston?
I don't know. I mean, I was obviously not impressed by what I saw from Cincinnati. But, I mean, like I said, I still am just not that high on Houston. Yes, they've won some games in this conference. Again, that's not saying much. But I don't know. I think the difference between Houston and a Cincinnati is is tighter than what you would think just by looking at standings alone. So could Cincinnati do it? Yeah, I mean, if that Ryan Nicholson dude gets a hold of a couple balls and sends them 470 out of the field again, then yeah, they might be in a good spot to win some games if their pitching can hold on to it. But I think at this point it's a crapshoot. Who knows? But they definitely could. I do think they could.
We got several different takes here on Cincinnati. Josh Hill says Cincinnati's going to take Sunday. Are they going to take Sunday off because they're not playing Sunday? The way he drew it up says for Tulane to score as much as they did against Houston, I think Cincinnati has hotter bats and can win at least one. And then Kurt Cohn says Cincinnati will get their ass whooped, their pocket book taken, and their name in the hospital book this week. Wow. Adam McMahon says Cincy's bullpen is better than Tulane's, not by much, but they are.
My high school team's bullpen was better than Tulane's. So.
Yeah, I mean, we could go out there and perform just as good as Tulane's bullpen, and I could perform just as good as Tulane's catcher. I'm pretty sure. I could drop every pitch. I could get hit with catcher's interference 3 times.
You think so? You think you after the first time you would be like, all right, I'm done with this, and walk back in the dugout?
I probably would just leave. I'd be like, this is not worth dying for. So, guys, I mean, at the end of the day, ECU's got to sweep USF, right, to have a shot. Like, I don't think Cincinnati's going to take this series, but I think they can definitely win a game, right? What do you think,
I think
Scott?
so too. I think you'll see some softball games break out in Houston this weekend. Some 12-10 type, 17-11 type games. Let's see real quick. Let's look at the American standings because I think Cincinnati. Yeah, they're a game up on Memphis and 2 games up on South Florida. So if Memphis loses, then they're pretty much locked into that 4-5 game anyway. So they're not going to have to play for, the first day because they're going to be playing the same team either way. But yeah, I mean, I think Cincinnati definitely has the firepower, and Houston doesn't have a deep pitching staff. So if they can get into some scoring fest, I would look for that Thursday game, to be honest with you, as a game that is potentially, the most winnable game for Cincinnati on the road. Houston plays a good team midweek in Sam Houston State. Not sure how much effort they'll really put into that, knowing that they need all 3 games this weekend to win the conference. But another factor is Houston hasn't been in this position. They haven't been the team with a half-game lead going in to the final series, needing to hold on to a conference championship. So maybe there'll be some pressure there too. But I for sure will be pulling for the Cincinnati Bearcats this weekend.
Here's another factor, guys. Does Houston's not getting in that large? Do they have to? They kind of have to play for the tournament too. Like, what good does it do for them to win the regular season with an 80 RPI if they're going to turn around and lose on Tuesday because they exhausted their pitching? So I don't know. I mean, I still think they'll play for the regular season title, but you got to wonder if that thought creeps into their coach's mind where they're like, hey, do we really want to put all our eggs in the regular season basket when at the end of the day, it'd be nice to have a championship, but that's not going to make the tournament. I don't know. I guess that's Todd Whitting's call. Maybe he's trying to save his job with a regular season championship. But yeah, just another thought there. The way he drew it up says, for all those pundits that want to talk about us losing to Duke early in the season, can we not acknowledge Clemson getting swept by UCF, who we swept? Yeah, Scott talked about that at like the 8-minute mark. So get in the game.
Remember, the week we lost to Duke, we went 2-2 that week, and we dropped like 5 spots in the polls.
That's true.
Looks like that loss wasn't quite as bad as it was made to seem at the time.
They're still punishing ECU for it as they drop this week too. Duke also dropped in the polls. So you know what? We got to drop ECU as well. All right, let's make our predictions, guys. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to predict A, ECU's record the coming week. B, will the Pirates conclude the regular season with a conference championship or not? And C, our bonus prediction, which we're always wrong on, but yet we continue to make. Last week, we predicted Cam Claunch and Ryan McChrystal would homer. I think they had a combined 3 at-bats. They did not homer. Scott predicted Tulane would win the series along with UNC, right?
Yep.
So you got half credit.
Their series, so.
Half credit is still 0 in my book. I round down. Only for Wags or round up. But yeah, so we'll let's do it. Let's get into this. So let's make all 3 predictions one by one. if that makes sense. So, like, whoever goes can go ahead and predict all three. I guess we'll let Wags start it off because last week he had to go last. So, Wags, what do you got for predictions this week?
All right. I'm going to go out of order here, and I'm going to say that ECU is not going to come out of this with a regular season conference championship. I do think that Cincinnati takes a game, but I think ECU is going 2-2 this week. I have a bad feeling about the Campbell game. I just have a bad feeling about that one. I think it's going to be two good teams. I think it's going to be a really close game, but in the end, I think that Campbell is going to gut that one out, unfortunately. And then the South Florida series, again, it's on the road. We showed that maybe we're back on the road against Cincinnati, but that's Cincinnati. South Florida might not be that much better, but on the short rest, the pitching staff might be scraping by a little bit more. So I think you lose one against South Florida for a 2-2 week. And my bonus prediction, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of just talking through it right now. That's why I delayed a little bit because I don't know what I'm going to do. But okay. I think.
We can always come back to you if you need it. If you need us.
I'm gonna. So originally I was gonna pick 3-1, but I decided not to, and I was gonna say that ECU is gonna have 3 different guys earn saves on the week, but I'll stick something similar to that since I picked 2-2, and I think that you will see 2 different guys with the save, and I think one of them is not going to be your top end guys. It's not going to be Wyatt Luntrachenko, and it's not going to be Carter Spivey. It's not going to be a Danny Beal. It's going to be one of those guys we talked about, like a Willie Lumpkin, a Tyler Broad's going to come in close into the game because your bullpen's worn down. One of them will pick up at least one of those 2 saves, but both wins will be via the save opportunity.
So you're going.
Pretty much, I'm going somebody stepping up
out
of the bullpen and getting an unexpected save. Someone like Tyler Broad, Willie Lumpkin will get a save this weekend. I'll stick with that.
Somebody unexpected getting a save.
There we go.
That's fair. All right, Scott, we'll go to you second.
All right. So let's see. Wags talked so long, I forgot the questions. Let's see. So, will we win the conference championship? I'm going to go with yes. I think Cincinnati takes at least one from Houston. I don't think Houston has the mental fortitude to hold on to a lead of the conference championship, and I think Cincinnati will be inspired to win, potentially to play their way into the 3 seed and not have to play us until the conference championship, which I think is their best path to making the NCAA tournament. I think we go 4-0 this weekend. I did check the weather while Wags was talking to make sure that it wasn't going to rain or anything like that tomorrow night, so I think we should be good there. And I like the way we're playing right now. And what was the thing? Oh, bold prediction here. We are going to run rule South Florida not once but twice this weekend. We're gonna beat them by at least 10 2 times. We're not going to do the thing where we're up 10 in the 6th inning and then give up a run and then have to play all 9 innings for no reason. We're going to hold on to it this time. We'll get at least 1 run rule win, maybe even 2.
All right, I'm going to go 3-1. I think ECU beats Campbell. I think they're going to be very motivated for this game. Saylor's last potential start in Clark LeClair, or performance in Clark LeClair, I think he'll pitch well. I think the offense will find a way to get out enough runs against a solid Campbell staff. I think the crowd will make a difference. So I'm going to win there. And then I think 2 out of 3 at USF. It just seems like ECU doesn't play its best ball at South Florida. And I think the Bulls will steal one. And I think Cincinnati will steal one. But obviously if ECU and Houston both win 2 out of 3, that leaves ECU a half game short. So I'm going no regular season conference championship. I do think ECU is going to win the tournament, which we'll get into next week and make up for that. But I'm going 3-1 and also no championship. I hope I'm wrong. And ECU makes it 4 in a row. All right, bold prediction. I, like Wagner, have nothing to predict. I don't have anything that comes to mind. So now I'm stalling. I'm gonna make a decision though. So I'm gonna say that Lane Hoover hits for the cycle this week.
Wow.
Extremely bold.
I'm going as bold as possible.
Well, a clarification question.
Yep.
Are you saying just for the cycle as a whole on the week, or in one specific game he will hit for the cycle?
One specific game. He is
All right.
going to single, double, triple, and homer. He might.
Okay.
There's a good probability that he'll get it inside the park homer to complete the cycle. So he won't hit it out. What he'll do is he'll hit one off the wall, and the outfielder will fall down. He'll race home and beat the throw to complete the cycle. Now, if this prediction comes true, I am retiring on top because it'll be the most epic prediction in the history of podcasting. So, yeah, that's what happens when you don't have a bold prediction ready to go. You just make up something completely out your ass.
At least you made up something coherent. You didn't just ramble on and make 3 different predictions before you narrowed it down to one like me.
Hey, we put you on the spot. You know, you've been making bold predictions all year long. Eventually, you kind of run out. You know, there's only so many bold predictions to make, clearly.
Well, the one you got right ruined someone's
It's been all downhill from there.
Yeah. Clearly, we're not too good at this. But yeah. All right, guys, this was fun. Again, so Friday at 12 noon, we'll be on 94.3 The Game, the ECU Baseball Roundtable. I guess we could make our bonus predictions part 2 if it's not looking good come Friday. But Friday at 12 noon, we'll be on 94.3 The Game on Hoist the Colors. I think we're going to have Wags in studio with me, and then we'll have Scott via video. So, again, we'll be on a different YouTube page, different platform, but check our Twitters. Also check 94.3 The Game, their Facebook and YouTube as well to drop in your comments, different time, location, but we'll still be the same 3 guys. All right, for Jonathan Wagner, for Scott Lorbatcher, I'm Stephen Igo. This has been Hoist the Colors. Thank you guys once again for all the comments. We'll be back with you on Friday and then again next week to preview the conference tournament. So long.